Good morning and welcome to my live. Happy Monday morning. Hope everybody is in for a good week. Well, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'd like to talk a bit about general immigration because, everybody has questions on, many of the hundreds of different parts of immigration. But when we look at immigration as a whole, what is it that we're looking at? And what is it you need to be aware of? So that's more or less what I'm going to talk about today. And then after, I will go back to your questions, if there are, and I will let you know what the answers are, and then we'll go from there. So let's get started. Okay, so general immigration. If we're talking U.S. immigration, there is a lot of different parts to it. Like, for example, I am a certified specialist in immigration and nationality law. Now, just so you know, I can't just say that. Initially, when I became a certified specialist, some 20-some years ago, or more. I think it was about 25 years ago. I had to have been practicing immigration law for at least 5 years, and I had to prove that I had cases in all the different areas of immigration law, such as removal, adjustment, employment, all the family-based, all the different parts, naturalization, citizenship. And then I had to get references from all the different, from either judges or other attorneys. And then I had to take a test, an exam. It was an all-day exam. And then basically a year and a half after that, they told me whether I got in or not, which I did. I have to renew the certification every 5 years because they don't want you to get old. I mean, like, you can see my gray hair, but I'm talking about, letting it lapse as far as, the continuing education and things like that. So the only thing I don't have to do every 5 years is take the exam again, but all the other stuff I do, okay? So when we're talking general immigration, again, it depends what you want. Do you want to become a U.S. citizen? Do you want to get the green card? Do you want to come into the U.S. as a non-immigrant and work? Do you want to stay in the U.S. and change your status? Do you want to apply for naturalization? Do you qualify for derivative citizenship? Okay, there's all kinds of stuff. Are you wanting representation in removal proceedings? Did you lose in removal proceedings and do you want to appeal? Okay. With immigration law, general immigration law, where you file stuff and what part of the whole ambit of immigration law applies to you is sometimes a difficult thing. Like, where are you supposed to appeal? Appeal to the BIA, to BALCA, okay? Are you supposed to do the opening brief? Can you argue it in person? Things like that, okay? So, I liken immigration law to like a 10,000-piece puzzle. And sometimes when people try to tackle this on their own without getting a qualified immigration attorney, they may get a piece of the puzzle in okay, but then they don't see how it affects all the other pieces of the puzzle. And that many times creates a huge problem, okay? So with immigration law, we look at the whole picture to see what's going on, because one part can have an effect on another part, which can have an effect on another part. That's why when someone comes to my office and they say what they want, I have to ask all kinds of questions to determine the actual status of what it is that they are doing and where to go from there and what has the least risk, the most benefit in order to make it happen. Okay, it sometimes is not an easy thing. And other times, since we're talking about general immigration, other times what happens is the initial part of whatever they're doing was done wrong, and I have to try to backtrack and get it so that it happens and that it's right. You know what I mean? I mean, but there's usually always a way, sometimes more difficult than others. And also, immigration law applies when people, for example, have been deported already and they're out of the country. How can we get them back? You know, what waivers are available? Things like that. Okay? So that, in a very, very brief nutshell, is what general immigration is all about. And as far as being a certified specialist, okay, as far as being a certified specialist, while I am a certified specialist in California, because it was the California bar that certified this, I am able to practice immigration law federally. That's what's nice about general immigration as well, and that because it's federal law, that means that anywhere in the United States I can take a client. Now, the problem and the issue that people have with that is they'll say, well, I'm in New York, and how can the law possibly be the same as it is in California? Well, some of it is, some of it's not. But when you're a certified specialist, you know where to look for the precedent, what precedent applies in that jurisdiction, how to argue better the law in that jurisdiction, and so forth. You know, I once went to New York to argue at the appellate court there. It was the First Circuit Court. This is when somebody loses at the Board of Immigration Appeals and then does a petition for review to the circuit courts. I went all the way to New York to argue my case in front of the justices at the First Circuit Court of Appeal. Okay. And I remember, this is kind of funny, I remember arguing and I gave good argument and everything. And then at the end of my arguments, I tell the justices, I go, well, I will reserve the balance of my time for rebuttal because you only get 10 minutes. I mean, I travel all the way there and you only get 10 minutes. And so one of the justices was very nice to me. He says, well, counsel, you actually went over a minute. You don't have a minute left. But since you came all the way from California, we are going to give you an extra minute. So I was able to use that extra minute for rebuttal once the other side did their argument, which I was thankful. Ultimately, I actually ended up winning that case, and it was worth it to go all the way to New York to argue it. All right, so let's go back and let's see what questions we have. Now, we all know it's Monday morning, so you might just be waking up. But if you have questions, now's the time to ask, because once I get to the bottom, I'll say adios. Okay, let's see. Okay, so just going down. So be patient with me. Well, Raj, you said hello. I'll say hello back to you, but do you have a question for me? Okay. Going down. Just a minute. Okay. We have a lot of people that joined, but so far, not a lot of questions, which is okay. Sometimes we have a lot, sometimes we don't. Let's see. Okay. This is from What's Up. That's right. The name is What's Up. How can Ukrainians stay here if they haven't gotten their re-parole approved yet? Okay, well, that depends, okay? You shouldn't rely just on the parole because you know our current administration is doing everything on earth to stop anyone from anywhere who's not white and inside the United States, okay? That's the fact. And so we're having to fight that. But there are ways, okay? So even if you can't get parole again, the question becomes, what happened in Ukraine that made you come to the U.S.? And obviously we know, I mean, it's the war, right? So we have to see if you've been persecuted in some manner, and you possibly may fall under one of the 5 grounds of asylum. And if you haven't been here a year yet, then now's the time to apply for that, assuming you qualify, and I'd have to see. But if it's been more than a year, that's not a loser. That just means you have to get over the 1 year hurdle as to why you did not file within the first year of being here. Okay, so that just depends. So it also depends on your case. You also, I don't know what your education is, but you might be able to find an employer that would be willing to petition you for a plethora of different kinds of visas. And ultimately, if you can't get a temporary one, you might be able to get someone to apply for the green card for you. That doesn't mean you can stay here the whole time, but it could mean if it goes through, you'd be able to come back as a lawful permanent resident. Don't just sit there and hope you get re-paroled again, because, who knows, that tomorrow that might disappear. Okay, this is from Sabrina. Hello, good morning. Would you be kind enough to answer a question for me? Absolutely. That's what I do. Let's see. So where's your question? Okay, here it is. Is it safe for someone to travel from New York to LA with a foreign passport without a visa? Okay, so essentially what you're saying, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody came here illegally, okay, without inspection. Because if you have a passport and you came here legally, you would have to have a visa in there. So you're asking me, in today's day and age, if somebody who's not here legally and just has a foreign passport, if they can go all the way across the country without a problem. And the answer is I wouldn't do that. Okay, not today. I mean, you know what our president is doing, right? He's sending ICE roving patrols in unmarked vans and all this other stuff they're doing in LA. Okay, and most likely it's going to happen in New York as well, but in LA for sure. So your person, if it's you or someone else, might get off the plane and hit an ICE official, might walk out into customs, might walk out of the airport. It's not worth it. Don't do it. Okay? All right. Hope I made that clear enough. Okay. This is from Ahmad. Is there an interview for the I-751? So, one of the reasons you're asking that, I assume, is because maybe the marriage isn't going so well and you don't think your spouse is going to come to the interview. Okay? Yes, most of the time there is. What for those other people, what I-751 is, when you get married, you've been married under 2 years, you get what's called a conditional green card. That lasts for 2 years, and then 90 days before that expires, you have to file a petition to remove the conditional residency. So if you're having trouble, Ahmad, getting your spouse to go, or things just aren't going well, even if there's no interview, you can't pretend that everything's hunky-dory, because that would be fraud, okay? So if you've gotten a divorce, or if you're getting a divorce, there's a divorce waiver, there's hardship waiver, there's all kinds of ways that you essentially can self-file the I-751 without the assistance of your spouse. Trying to file jointly with the hope they don't see that things are not good or well, not a good idea. Okay? Okay, this is from Shifa Malani. Is the 730 following to join refugees still banned by the president? My spouse is outside the U.S. and the Philippines. Does that mean that you got asylum from the Philippines? I'd be interested to know why. I did get, by the way, this was like back in I think it was like 1996 or something. It was a long time ago. And it was a reporter from the Philippines who was a whistleblower. And I got asylum for this guy based on that. And I remember, it's kind of funny, I remember that NPR called me because they wanted my take on it, right? So they're asking me all kinds of questions. They called me when I happened to be in the kitchen. So I'm there talking on the phone, and at the time they called me, I can't remember if I had one kid or two kids at the time, but whoever was crying in the background. So they said, Mr. Lerner, we really like your answers, and so forth. But I think we're going to have to do it again because we can hear the baby in the background. So I had to walk into another room and they asked me everything all over again. But yeah, there still is a bar on that, but there might be other ways to be able to come in. And also, to be honest with you, there's ways of bringing lawsuits if that's stopping it. Okay, so give my office a call. Okay, I can't say this whole name, but it's HD21212 100 times. Hi, good morning. My case was asylum, last kiss, and denying the USCIS. What can I do? Oh, last case. Okay, I'm assuming what you're saying is you filed for asylum at USCIS. So in an affirmative asylum case, they denied it. What do you do? Well, because they denied it, assuming you had no status or were out of status, they're going to refer you to immigration court. And once they refer you to immigration court, you get to fight your whole case in front of the judge. So number one, get a good immigration attorney. Number two, make sure you have a valid asylum case. I'd need to know, for my purposes, why they denied it. Did they deny it because you were not under a valid one of the 5 enumerated grounds of asylum? Did they deny it because they thought you were lying? Okay, I'd have to see that. Okay. This is, whoops. Oh, just a second. Okay. This is from Sanari Mohammed Awel. How long does it take for asylum-based green card to be approved? Well, I'd have to verify. Are you asking how long does asylum take to get approved so you can get the green card? Or are you saying asylum was already approved and asylum was already approved and a year has passed and you've applied for the green card? If that's the case, it's going to take about a year. Okay, so it just depends what it is you're asking me as to when. The asylum itself, don't assume that will be approved. I mean, the majority of them actually are not. So if you're just applying for asylum, don't get into the unfortunate basket of just assuming because you applied it'll be approved. Okay, what you should do is, if that's the case, is get an attorney to supplement your asylum application to make it a lot better. Okay? All right, let's see. Well, Sonari, you say I'm not answering your question. Maybe you need to make it more clear. Okay? I mean, I can't read people's minds. Okay, Dwayne, I have an interview for the green card next week. Any tips? Well, that depends on how you're getting the green card. Is it through employment? Is it through marriage? Did you win the diversity lottery? Did you get asylum? Okay, there's all kinds of ways of getting the green card. It depends how, but number one, regardless of how you did it, don't make misrepresentations. Don't do that. And secondly, don't make up answers if you don't know. If you don't understand the question, tell them. Okay, don't just make up. And then don't go on and on. Just answer the questions given briefly, succinctly, and clearly. Okay? There's people that they think if they go on and on and on, it makes it better, but it does the exact opposite of that. It opens up the door for other things. Okay? And I'm talking not good things. All right? Okay. Jan. Old people doing damage to Earth, they soon leave. Well, that's not a question. I have no idea what you're talking about. Nor, how long will the film visa take for Pakistani citizens? Film visa? I don't know what you mean, film visa. You have to tell me what kind of visa you're specifically talking about, and then I'll be able to answer you better. Okay? This is from UD. I have a deportation case that was administratively closed 10 years ago. What do you recommend? Well, you understand, when a deportation case is administratively closed, that doesn't mean that it is terminated. That doesn't mean that it no longer exists. Basically, you can look at it as it's paused. the court still retains jurisdiction over your case. So what I would recommend is first I need to see if you qualify for anything. Okay? I need to know what you might qualify for, and then assuming you qualify for something, we would then make a motion to recalendar in the immigration court and then apply for whatever it is you want, or maybe recalendar and terminate so USCIS can get it. Generally, I like to keep it in front of the immigration judge because I think you have a better shot at it these days. A lot of times you get it in front of USCIS and they don't rule properly based on the history, or they don't understand what's gone on. Okay? Let's see. Okay. All right, let me just scroll down, see if we have any other questions here. Okay. Baba Ball, you say you have a question, so where's the question? I'll be happy to answer you. Okay, this is from Shifa Malani. Sir, I'm based in Nevada. I assume you're talking about Nevada, waiting for the N400 interview. That's for the to become a citizen. We have a pending I-730. Is it good to apply for the I-130? Well, since a lot of areas, the 730, which is a derivative asylee application, is on hold, the answer is yes, it would be good for you to apply for the I-130, assuming that there's a family relationship and that the visa number would be current. Okay? Omar Silla, my prima facie determination. Oops, how did that happen? Wait, I've never done this before. Okay. Okay, sorry. I don't know how that happened. Okay. My prima facie determination letter is already expiring for 9 months. They're going to send me the new. Okay, there's not a question there, Omar. And I don't know what you're applying for. Did you apply for the U and you got a prima facie determination on that? I mean, ultimately, if it's taking too long to get an answer, you can file a writ of mandamus against immigration, okay, to force them to make the decision. But I'd never do that unless you have a really good case and one that's clearly approvable, okay? Let's see. Okay, Boneless Chair, you have a couple of questions. Well, we're getting to the end of the thing, so if you want to type your questions here, type them. And if not, then contact me in any of the normal ways, and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Well, that'll do the live for today. Again, if I didn't get to your question, just send me any of the multiple ways that I can take your information, and we can do a consult and go from there. All right. We have one more question because Noor got in just in time. How long does it take for the fiancé visa from Pakistan? Well, first you have to get it approved, okay? But assuming it's approved, once it gets there, it's going to take about, it depends on the consulate, but to get the appointment and so forth, 3 to 6 months. Not really that long. But I'm assuming you have the approved fiancé visa already from USCIS. If you don't, then of course, you got to do that. Okay. For Baba Ball, you live in Pennsylvania, you're 19 years old. Is it possible to apply for a SIJ petition? Well, that depends on state law. Most of the time, it is possible because you're under 21, okay? But with the SIJ petition, you first have to file in the family court and get certain orders there, and then you can file with USCIS. So you're running right up against the wall. So assuming you qualify, you need to get moving on that right away, okay? All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the live.